Welcome back to day 3 of Network Basics for Hackers from Hackers Arise. As you know, I'm OTW, and we're in the home stretch of Network Basics for Hackers. When we left off yesterday, we were looking at SMB, Server Message Block, port 445. And I was pointing out how important port 445 is, SMB is, because essentially when SMB is used, you can control somebody else's computer. You're sharing your computer with somebody else, your files, okay, your drive. So if it gets hacked, okay, and it has, then essentially the hacker has almost total control over your system. I also mentioned that there's been a number of hacks over time. Samba on the Linux side, okay, Samba is Yamo says, I've been thinking about joining and helping the cause, but my knowledge is not as vast. Okay. Um, okay, there's lots of tutorials on Hackers Rise, but Yamo's saying he wants to join in, doesn't feel like he has enough knowledge in the cause against Russia. Feel free to look at some of the tutorials on Hackers Arise, and some of them are pretty simple to do. All right, I tried to put together some simple ones. The more complex ones, the more confidential ones, I'm obviously not putting up on Hackers Arise. I don't want Russia to see them. The simple ones are on Hackers Arise, and so anybody can do those. All right. But what I was pointing out is SMB. If you can crack SMB, if you can hack SMB, you can take control of the system. And over time, over the last 25 years, there's been a number of key hacks against SMB. Why do people go after SMB? Because if you get SMB, you get control of the machine. The most recent one is the one that came out from NSA. That's Eternal Blue, and that's what we're going to look at next. All right. Let's go ahead and get our virtual machines up here. I've got everything set up so we can go ahead and attack. All right, so here's our, you clear my screen. And we've got a Windows 7 system, an unpatched Windows 7 system. You can see that's the IP address right there. All right. And of course, you can't attack something that you can't communicate with, right? So you got to be able to talk to it. So let's try pinging it first. All right. Ping 192, 168, 109. Okay. And make sure we can talk to it. We can. Okay. So we're in good shape there. You can't always take that for granted with virtual machines, right? Because if you were working on a physical machine over the internet, you can assume that that you can connect to the other system. Virtual machines are a little trickier sometimes. All right, so I think we got this one all set up. We should be good to go. Let's go ahead and open up our MSF console. And I think I mentioned yesterday that we have a Metasploit class coming up. I think it's in June, so put that on your calendar. Those of you who are subscribers can request and download the last Metasploit class. I want to point out that every time I do a class, I add new material, try to make it a little better, a little more interesting. So even though you may have seen some of the older videos, the new ones will be better and greater. So, all right, here's our Metasploit 5, okay? And we can go search, okay? And this time we're going to search by the vulnerability number, which is MS17. That it's when Microsoft does it, it's a dash, but in Metasploit they use an underscore. 010. This came out in March of 2017. Okay, that's when it was released by the shadow brokers, which was probably Russian intelligence. Okay, but we don't know for sure, but probably Russian intelligence. So we can search by the vulnerability number, and we can see that there's a number of them there. If you're not familiar with Metasploit, these are basically the paths to the various tools in Metasploit. They're called modules here, and auxiliary modules generally are like scanners, vulnerability scanners, and so this one right here is a MS17010 RCE detection. Okay, the remote control exploit. But let's use this one right here. Now, I will point out, and it's important to you to know if you're working in this field, that even the best exploits, okay, even the best exploits developed by the best hackers in the world don't work all the time. Okay, so if somebody tells you I've got this exploit that always works, call them a liar. Because it just doesn't happen. Okay, if you can get an exploit to work half the time, usually that's very good. Okay, because remember, when you're exploiting a system, you're trying to get it to do something it was never intended to do. Okay, you're trying to break it. All right, so let's go ahead and load this module. So I went and just copied it, and then the keyword is use. All right, and then paste. And it's loaded. It tells you that since version 5, it says no payload was configured. Okay, so it goes ahead and defaults to a payload. This one is the Windows x64 Meterpreter Reverse TCP, which is fine. You can change it by going set payload. And when we say payload in Metasploit, basically we're talking about a rootkit, a listener. Okay, but we're just going to leave it as it is. I'm happy with that one. Let's go info, and it tells you, it describes, okay, the exploit. If you go up a little bit, we can see some information on it. This is the MS17010. Its platform is for Windows. Is it privileged? Yes, that's key. That means we're coming in as system admin. That means we have total power over the system. All right. Rank. This is ranked average. Average means this is how successful is it? About average. That means if you get it to work half the time, you're doing pretty good. Okay. It was disclosed on 3/14, and it ended up, being patched in about the same time, maybe April of that year, but not everybody patched it. So as a result, we got a bunch of ransomware that came out right after that. So we got NotPetya came out and WannaCry came out, and they all use this exploit to get inside your system to then encrypt your data. All right. So for a few months there, while a lot of people did not have it patched, hackers were running wild with this exploit, making a lot of money. All right. It tells you who put it together. These two guys are the reverse engineers. They're the people who took the exploit that came from the Equation Group and Shadow Brokers, and then reverse engineered it for Metasploit. Shows me the targets: Windows 7, Windows 2008. There's another version that works with Windows 8. Okay. And then it tells you the basic options. And we don't have to do a whole lot to get this thing to work. Okay, what we have to do is we have to tell it what the R hosts are. Okay. And R host is the remote host. So who are we attacking? All right. And pretty much that's it. Okay. We also will have to set up the L host, which is the R IP address. So let's do show options. All right. And here's our payload options. Okay, everything's already set up for us. All right. And then we still got to set up our R host. Who are we attacking? So we're attacking, I think it's 6, right? Set our hosts. Okay, plural, 192, 168, 106. Okay. By the way, there's, I covered the Eternal Blue extensively in my book, Getting Started Becoming Master Hacker. It's our case study, basically, of a really powerful exploit. Okay, it's about as powerful an exploit as we have seen in recent years. All right. So if we have everything, it says, wait, it looks like here I might have confused the. Let me get the IP addresses correct. Let's see. This one is, it's 9. Okay, yeah. This machine here, the Kali machine, is 6. I got to change that. Set our hosts to 192, 168, 109. Okay. Now we should be able to attempt to hack that system using SMB. So what we're going to be doing, okay, what this exploit does is it goes into the SMB and it tries to make a connection through SMB, and the developers of the Eternal Blue found a buffer overflow that they could create in SMB and then inject a payload onto the system and give the hacker total control over the system. This particular exploit will try 3 times by default. Okay, it'll try 3 times before it gives up. And so we're going to just go ahead and tell it to exploit and pray to the gods of hacking that it works, and we'll see. It tells us, first of all, it's vulnerable. Okay, it's trying. We've got it. First try. Look at that. We've got the Meterpreter on it. See, it says right here, it says Meterpreter session 1 opened. Okay. We got a win there. All right, so we're now in control of that Windows 7 system. We can check, okay, by simply going, hey, let's go ifconfig and see what the IP address is on that system. All right, and we can see that there it is right there. That's the other system. We can go, say dir. You can see these are all the Windows directories. Rhinus says the hacking gods are pleased with our offering. Yes, they are. We got success on the very first try, so that is really good. They must really like us a lot. We did the right things. Hey, Tyler, welcome. So we're inside that system, and basically we have system admin. Okay, so we can go sys info, right? And it tells us that the name of the computer is OTWPC, Windows 7, x64, okay? There's 2 users logged on, okay? And Meterpreter is x64 Windows. So this is exploiting SMB. So if you can get into the SMB, you can usually take total control over the system, all right? That includes putting a keylogger on it, turning on the microphone, turning on the camera, looking at any of the files on that system. So there's almost unlimited what you can do. So in this case here, we have total control. This is what it looks like to have total control over somebody else's system, right? And I can navigate around. So I can go say CD to the desktop. Wait, let's first of all see what directory I'm in. Okay. Let's go PWD. Okay. I'm at system. All right. And let's go back a couple of levels. And then go dir. There's all the directories under Windows. And then let's go back and go dir. All right. Here's our documents and settings, program files, program data, users, Windows. Let's see what's in the, let's go to documents and settings. And since it's there's spaces in it, we're going to have to use double quotation marks around it. Okay, and now I'll go PWD, and we'll see we're in documents and settings, and then go ls-l, and it comes back, operation failed, access is denied. Interesting. Wonder if we might have lost the interpreter. Let's see. Yeah, what that usually that means is that the connection got broken. Okay, and let's go and try exiting. So we're back out, and so you see it says interpreter session closed. Let's see if we can go ahead and exploit it again and get back inside. Can we be lucky 2 times in a row? We are. Look at that. Session number 2. All right. All right. Yeah, it's we're inside, but it keeps on dropping the connection. And let's try one other thing. Let's go key scan start. So for some reason it's dropping the dir, but I got the keystroke scanner going. Okay, it's a sniffer that it'll now capture all the keystrokes on the other system. So if I go over to my Windows system and open up, say, let's just open up something simple like Notepad and say, say, hello generals. Hello, generals. See, things are not going well in Ukraine. Okay, as a result, you are all fired. Best wishes, your friend Pooty. Okay. Sartorius says, this is a regular Windows computer or domain controller. This is a regular Windows computer, but it works on a domain controller as well. It works on Windows 7 and Windows 08. There are other versions that work on other versions as well. Okay, so the issue is that it has to have SMB1 and SMB2 both on that system, which everything from Windows 8 earlier has both of those. Okay, so it creates a buffer overflow by accessing both of those at the same time. So this is just a simple Windows 7 workstation. Let's go back to our, key scan dump. My bad. All right, let's first thing we got to do before we turn on any keystroke scanner is we have to migrate the interpreter to the notepad. All right, so let's go and take a look at PS. All right, and you see that PS has, in Linux that PS gives you all the processes, and you can see all the processes here. Here's the command exe. What we're looking for is our notepad, and Here it is right there. So it's using process 448. So we've got to move our interpreter, okay, to that, migrate to 448, okay. And now whatever process you put the interpreter on, now I can turn the key scanner on, okay, key scan, key scan, start, okay. All right, now we can go back to our Windows and we're gonna have to enter this all again. Okay, because this is a keystroke scanner, so I can't just copy and paste, okay? So I'm gonna write the same note to my generals. Hello, my generals, okay? You are all facing the firing squad today. Best wishes in the afterlife, Pooty. Okay, and then we can go back here and say key scan dump, and there's our little message. Okay, so once we have control over the system, we can do just about anything with it. Okay, including, you know, a key scanner, turning on the mic, listening in conversations, turning on the webcam, pulling up any documents, you know, using that machine to attack other machines. So lots of things that we can do with it. One of the things that we were doing yesterday is Net Discover. Remember we told you Net Discover sends out gratuitous ARPs to see what other machines are on the network. There's a tool similar to it in Metasploit called, if I remember correctly, it's called ARP scanner. And let's see if I get the syntax right. ARP scanner. It might be underscore. Let's see. Give me a moment. I'll remember it, or I'll look it up. Okay. All right. Here we go. I have a tutorial on Hackers Arise on all of the scripts that are built in. Still not finding it. It is ARP scanner. Okay. One moment. Let me see what the syntax is like. Should be ARP scanner. And then the use CIDR notation to scan. Let's see if I get it right this time. Unknown command, ARP scanner. One more place to look. All right, my bad. Let's get it right this time. Run ARP scanner -R. That's part of the problem. Of course, also I left out the run 192.168 100 -0/24. So what this will do is it'll use ARP, use this ubiquitous protocol that is on every network, right, to find other systems on the network. So I can use this system now that I own this one on the network. I can use it to attack other machines. So, for instance, oftentimes you'll get in and you'll be on a system that really doesn't have anything interesting to you. Really, maybe if you're the attacker, you're really looking for a database. Okay. So what you would do next is you got into, say, some administrative person's PC, and now you want to go and find that database server. All right. So let's see what other machines are on our network. And this is basically NetDiscover, but it's built into, there you go. You see all the machines on the network using ARP. Okay, well, that's good for, we're basically trying to demonstrate, oh, there's another one coming up, still got some more coming, but demonstrate that how SMB can be exploited, this very powerful and dangerous protocol that every network uses, right? And so if you're a nation state actor like Russia or the US or China or whatever, you're going to be looking at SMB, because SMB, if you can crack it, you're going to take control over the system. Let's stop it there and let's go back to our presentation. So SMB, is going to be the target for anybody who wants to take control of a system. All right. Let's go back to our presentation and let's move on to the next subject matter. All right. That's SMB. And in all honesty, it's not just Windows that's had this problem with SMB. It's also been Linux as well. Samba has had lots of vulnerabilities in it. And all right, here we go. Here's SMTP. Okay, SMTP, as you know, is the simple mail transport protocol. Okay, is among the most important protocols in our digital age. It's used to transfer email from one user to another. Okay, actually, it's used to transfer email from one email server to another. All right, so it's a key cog in the wheel of email. Although most people use a client-based email protocol like IMAP or POP3 to retrieve their email from the server. Right? Although SMTP was first codified in 1983, it's still the same protocol that carries nearly all email with some enhancements. Here's the way it works, okay? So SMTP, you can see it's used primarily or exclusively, let's say, the communication between email servers is exclusively SMTP, okay? So you got two email servers for two different companies, okay? This is company ABC, this is company XYZ. They communicate with each other over SMTP, all right? But the clients can either communicate by SMTP or, okay, so to send their messages, SMTP, to retrieve their messages, either POP3 or IMAP. The same over here, okay? There's a diagram above, okay, or previously. The client, Anna at maildomainabc.com, sends email to the MTU, that's the mail transfer unit, okay, server via SMTP, and retrieves the email via either POP3 or IMAP. The same is true on the other client. communication between the email servers or MTUs exclusively at SMTP on port 25. First, email is submitted by an email client or mail user agent such as Microsoft Outlook, Mozilla, to the email server, the mail server agent or MSA, using SMTP on port 587. This email is then transferred to the MTU. Most often, these two agents, the MUA and the MTU, are the same system managed by the same piece of software, like XM in Linux, like Exchange in Windows. Okay. The boundary MTA uses DNS to look up the MX record, just like we did. Okay, remember we did the DNS, we used the dig to find the MX record. So it goes into DNS to find out what the MX record is of the system that is the target of the email. This record includes the name of the target MTA, which can demonstrate that we can demonstrate this with a dig command like we did earlier. The MTA then selects the target host, connects to it, and sends the message. Once the server receives the incoming message, it hands it to a mail server agent, MDA, for delivery to the recipient. Once the message is delivered to the local mail server, the email is stored for retrieval by an authenticated MUA. Types of MTUs. These are the most common ones. It used to be that postfix and sendmail were the most common MTUs in Linux. Now it's XM, which is built into your Kali. All right. Exchange on Windows systems. By the way, this past year, 2 years ago, maybe year and a half ago, Exchange had a huge vulnerability that the Chinese exploited. So the Chinese came in and just exploited all the big corporations and government services, and hacked open their Exchange servers and were retrieving all their emails. It was such a serious matter that the FBI got involved and basically patched everybody's Exchange server without them even knowing it. Okay, so they basically went into your system and patched it without you doing anything. It was that serious of a situation. Now, is that legal? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, but they did it because they felt like national security was at risk in this case. If you can basically justify anything if you say national security is at risk. All right, so they went into your company's email server if you're running Exchange, and they patched it without you even knowing it and without your permission. Recon on SMTP. Okay, we can do a TCP scan on port 25, the default SMT port, with Nmap include the A switch to attempt to determine the service running on that port, such as Nmap st-a, okay, and whatever the IP address is of the server in port 25. Let's do that. Okay, I have a SMTP server running here in a virtual machine. All right, and we'll go ahead and scan it. Here's my email server. It's on 10. All right, so we're going to scan it. And we're going to go quit from here. Okay, back to our Kali prompt. And now we're going to go ahead and go sudo nmap -st. Okay, and then the IP, we're going to use also the -a. Remember, the -a allows us to probe we'll do without the A first. It allows us to probe every port that's open to try to determine what service is running there. Because just because you know that port 25 is open, you don't know what email server is there. Just like you know port 80 is open, you don't know what web server is there. -a can do that for us. So I'll kind of demonstrate that for you. Let's first of all just scan all the ports on this system. This is our email server. Okay, lots of things open on it. Came back really quickly. All right, you can see that there is SMTP right there, among other things. And if we use the -A, we'll get even more information. Now it's going to go in there and probe each one of those ports to try to determine what the service is running behind that port. When we do it just without the A, all it tells us is whether or not the port is open or not. And it tells us what the default protocol on that port. Default protocol. It doesn't tell us the service, okay? This is the default. If we use the -A, it'll try to determine what the service is. And that's the kind of granular information we really need to be able to effectively hack those systems. And it takes a little while. It takes you know what? We can be even more targeted by running the same scan, but just say, do it on port 25 only, okay? P25. So rather than scanning all the ports, we're just going to go and just look at port 25. That's what we're interested in here. There, so it comes back much more quickly, okay? So it comes back and it tells us, oh, look at this. It's an XM server, which is the most common SMTP server in the Linux world now. Okay, it's overtaken everything else. I think it comes out of, it was developed at Cambridge University. It's open source, okay, and shows us what version of it is. Okay, it gives us a little more information on it, like what kind of commands it supports, authentication, hello, mail, receipt, data, what have you. Okay, gives us the Linux version it's running on, the Linux kernel. Okay, so, and it's only one hop away. Imagine that, all right? So now that we know that, we can go and potentially exploit it, maybe, but let's give it a shot, all right? So let's go back to our MSF console again. Now you don't have to use Metasploit, okay? Just that for demonstration purposes, it's a lot faster and quicker to use Metasploit. There's a lot of Python scripts that'll work equally well. Okay, now back to our Metasploit, and then let's go search. Okay, and let's go we know it's an XM server, so let's go look for XM, see what it has in terms of XM. And it looks like we got 5 different modules, okay, and they're all exploits, okay. And this one, okay, this one is pretty. This one here is 2019. You see some of the others. Just kind of explain to you what's going on here. This is basically, this right here is the path to the exploit, okay? Here's when that exploit was disclosed. So, you know, an exploit that's only 2 or 3 years old is pretty new, okay? Obviously, you know, if it's 1 month old or 6 months old, that would be even better because that means it's probably not patched, right? The rank is excellent. That means that it probably has close to like a 90% chance of being successful. And will it check to see if it's vulnerable? Yes, that's tells us there. And it tells us description. This is the XM 4.87491 local privilege escalation. Okay. Let's see what version that we are running over here. It tells us up here that we're running 4.68, right? You can see it right there. That's the version. And this exploit, oh, okay, is actually too early for this exploit. Okay, so that one's not going to work. Let's see what else we have. This is an old one here. This is a buffer overflow on XM4. All right, let's give this one a shot and see. Let's copy it. and then let's use it. And then let's go info on it. And let's see, here's the info. It says this module exploits a heap buffer overflow within the versions of XM prior to 4.69. Yes, that's what we want. Because we're 468, right? Let's go back and make sure again. Yeah, we're 468. So anything before 469, it works. This is the kind of, this is kind of the process, you're trying to exploit. You got to make sure that you actually know what this service is and what version it is, because if you're running 4.7, this isn't going to work, right? If you want to learn more about this exploit, there's lots of resources here that you can go back and read about it, all right? So let's go show options. And you can see that the name here, the R host, so we can actually send email on that system if we're successful in getting in. Okay, there's our hosts. All right, so let's go set our hosts, and it's going to be 192.168, 110. All right, and then let's go in and see if we can exploit it. It says exploit completed, but no session was created. That's the message that you'll get if you're unsuccessful. All right, so in this case, this one didn't work for us. So we're going to have to find something else and try another attack against it that will work. Okay, and let's see. We saw a few. There was a few exploits there, right? And exploit field, an exploitation error occurred. Okay, the exploit was completed, but no session was created. Let's make sure that we can still connect to it. Let's ping 192.168, 110. Yeah, we can connect to it. Let's try exploiting it again. Maybe my mail server got patched. Okay, this one should work against it. And this is kind of a good example that it doesn't always work, right? What you see in movies and TV shows where every exploit always works all the time is not real, okay? Even in a case where this should work, it looks like it may have gotten patched. Let's try changing to a different payload on this one. Go set. I seem to have lost my keyboard on this particular system. It doesn't want to let me type. Huh. Let's see. Yeah, my mouse is not working. My keyboard. Once again, a anomaly of you working with a virtual machine. Let's go ahead and take it down and put it back up. Okay. Take a moment here. Yeah, my system has locked. At least the virtual machine has locked. Okay. Let's go and start that virtual machine again. And we can use this one here. We'll use a different one. Yeah, if you're successful half the time on exploiting a system, you're doing really good. Because exploitation is hard work. It's not, like I say, it's not like in the movies where you just kind of grab something off the shelf and boom, you take over the system. Okay, even with well-worn and well-tried exploits, it doesn't work all the time. All right, let's give this one a shot again. Let's see if we can take over this XM server. Let's open up and let's see what make sure I check our IP address on this one. Looks like this one only has one interface, which makes things a little bit simpler. Okay, we're at 4 on this one. Let's make sure we can ping the 10 machine. That's the XM server. Yep. All right. Good. There's also an Nmap script. One of the things that we may or may not be familiar with is Nmap, besides being simply a scanner for ports being open, actually has a bunch of scripts that do various things. Some of them are almost exploitation. Some of them there's some password crackers, there's some vulnerability scanners that are all built into Nmap. And they do have one that works for SMTP servers. Let's go ahead and try running it against this one. This one's just going to go ahead and scan that SMTP server, get us some key information about it, even more information than we have now. Go script, okay, is equal to SMTP, all right, and the IP address. And so what this is going to do is it's going to use all of the SMTP scripts against this system, all right, and port 25. So it says, okay, run the scripts, okay, in the Nmap scripts that are in the category SMTP at this IP address on port 25. Let's go ahead and run it. All right, that was quick and easy. Okay, here's the information it came up with. It actually tells us who the users on that system, right? So it goes in and tests. Now, this is not necessarily all of the users. These are the users that it could find. Okay, so now we have more information. We now know who has email addresses and who are users on this system, okay, which can be really important in cracking the system. It also tells us that, look at this here, the XM heap overflow, it's probably vulnerable, okay, likely vulnerable, not certainly, but likely vulnerable, all right. So let's go ahead and give it a try again. Once again, even with the best tools, it's not always determinate that you can use a vulnerability scanner to determine if it's vulnerable. This one's telling us, hey, this one's specifically for SMTP servers, and it says, hey, it's probably vulnerable, but we're not entirely sure. And let's go once again and try our exploit again. It told us that it's probably vulnerable to this one right here. That's the one we just ran. Let's try it again. We'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, we'll just move on. All right, and then let's set a payload for it, okay? Payload is in Metasploit terms, is basically a rootkit, a listener. It's something to leave into the system, okay? Something to allow us to connect to the system with, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and put in, there's a set payload, that's the syntax, and then the name of the payload or command, Unix. So all we're doing is we're going to try to put in a Unix command line on this thing, reverse Perl. So it's using Perl. A reverse connection means that it'll call back to us, okay, on the IP address and port that we designate. Let's go show options. All right. So localhost, that's us, all right? and we got to put that in. So set localhost, and we are 192, 168. What are we? 6, I think. 6. I can always just go ifconfig, right? Command unknown because I didn't use sudo. We're 4. Okay, good thing I checked. Set lhost to 192, 168, 104, and show options again. All right, so we got this one set. The port is set. It has to be on port 25 here. We can change this if we want. Okay, that's just where we're listening at. This we can't change because it's an SMTP server. It has to connect on port 25. Our host right here, let's go ahead and make sure we set that to the remote, the target machine. Okay, so we go set our hosts, and it's going to be 192, 168, 110. All right, good. And of course, before you do any exploitation, I always recommend to do one more show options to make sure that you review all your options, make sure they're all set. Okay. Notice here that it says required. So if it's not required, you don't need it. Okay. All of these that are required, the yeses, are all filled in. Let's go ahead and try to exploit one more time. Keep our fingers crossed. Say a prayer to the hacking gods. They've been really kind to us so far. Looking good. And we've got it. All right. We are inside that SMTP server. Okay. Now notice that because we have a command shell, then nothing comes back to us. It's just, there's no prompt. All right. But we can check to see if we're inside that system by going pwd. All right. There it is. We're in the XM server. Who am I? I'm root. Yes. Okay. I'm root. That means I've got total control over this system. I can do anything I want with that mail server. All right. So, all right. So that's our SMTP server. You know, once we're inside, we can send email from anybody on that system, impersonate anybody, right? And send out, emails to, spam or whoever. I mean, we can use it for social engineering purposes, what have you. To be able to get people to click on things and to trust us, right? So that's SMTP. SMTP is a pretty complex protocol. We kind of just touched on some of the high points of SMTP, but then let's move on. All right, I'm going to close this. Go back to our presentation. All right. By the way, my book on network basics for hackers will have more detail on SMTP. So look forward to that. All right, let's talk about last couple protocols I want to talk about here are radio protocols. All right, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So Bluetooth is a universal protocol for low power near field communication operating at 2.4 to 2.485 gigahertz using spread spectrum frequency hopping at 1600 hops per second. Okay. If you're not familiar with spread spectrum frequency hopping, basically all this is to be able to make it more difficult for somebody to be able to intercept the communication. So it basically it changes the frequency 1600 times per second, right? So that if you lock on one frequency, all you're going to hear is 1/1600th, okay, of the message. It was developed by the way, one of the interesting things about spread spectrum frequency hopping is it was developed by a Hollywood actress. Hollywood actress by the name of Hedy Lamarr in the 1940s developed it and patented it. She was a very famous and very sexy movie actress, and she patented it right after World War II, or maybe it was still during the war. But it didn't get implemented until like the 1980s for the first time. So it took her. Your patents are only good for 20 years. So even though she had the patent on it, she never made any money on it because by the time anybody used it, her patent had expired. It was developed in 1994 by Ericsson Corp of Sweden and named after the 10th century Danish. Sweden and Denmark were a single country in the 10th century. King Harald Bluetooth. The minimum specification for Bluetooth range is 10 meters, but there's no limit to the range that manufacturers may implement in their devices. Okay? So even though it must be reachable, it must reach 10 meters, oftentimes you can reach Bluetooth for 100 meters. Okay? So, which is about the same as Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi will go out to about, by default, to about 100 meters. Bluetooth devices, I've been able to pick up Bluetooth devices for 100 meters. All right. Many devices have ranges as long as 100 meters with special antenna. We can extend the range even farther. So if we're looking for Bluetooth devices, okay, say we want to hack Bluetooth devices, we're not limited to, the range that the Bluetooth device is built for. You can, because these are radio signals, right? Because they're radio signals, we can use special antenna to amplify or capture more of the signal and amplify it and use it that way. All right. Just like you can with, a TV broadcast signal or, FM signal, you can use special antenna to pick up signals from great distances that wouldn't be normally available, be too weak at your location. But with special antennas, you can pick up much longer distance. Give you some ideas that in Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi antennas, they're built to reach about 100 meters, 300 feet approximately. But with special antennas and Wi-Fi, people have been able to pick up Wi-Fi signals for, in an extreme case, like 90 miles, okay, or about 60 kilometers. I'm sorry, about 145 kilometers, okay. That's a good distance, but that's under very special conditions. Normally, in an urban environment with special antennas, you can pick up, it has to be line of sight, as Yamo points out, okay? Because these radio signals, they can be obstructed by walls and buildings, right? So you don't have to be, but you get a stronger signal if you're in line of sight, right? We all know that, for instance, I'm in my office right here and I'm using Wi-Fi. It's a radio signal, right? But I don't have line of sight to my AP. It's going through several walls in another office, okay? So it doesn't have to be line of sight, but every time it has to pass through a wall, it gets weaker, okay? So any case, but if you have like the test where they did the 100-mile Wi-Fi signal was in a desert, where there was no buildings, totally flat, and then they were able to pick up a signal from 100 miles away, right? So it's not unusual to be able to pick up in an urban environment with special antenna for a couple of miles, okay? The same thing applies to Bluetooth, okay? Though Bluetooth is really low power, but you can pick them up for quite a distance under the right circumstances. Okay. When two Bluetooth devices connect, this is referred to as pairing. Okay. You've all probably done this with your Bluetooth speakers or your Bluetooth headset, what have you. Nearly any two Bluetooth devices can connect to each other. Any discoverable Bluetooth device transmits the following information: the name, the class, the list of services, and technical information. So As we all know, there's different types of Bluetooth devices. Okay, there are Bluetooth keyboards, right? There are Bluetooth mice. There are Bluetooth speakers. There are Bluetooth headsets. Those are all different classes. And when they are communicating with each other, okay, then they have to tell the other devices this information about themselves, okay? Very similar to, say, like a banner in banner grabbing, where a service will announce who it is. This is the same thing in Bluetooth. It announces to the other devices who they are. So when two devices pair, they exchange a pre-shared secret or link key. Each stores this link key to identify the other in future pairing, right? So you don't have to go through that process of pairing each time, or exchange of keys each time. You have to pair, but you don't exchange keys each time. Every device has a unique 48-bit identifier. It's like a MAC-like address, and usually a manufacturer-assigned name. Here's a diagram of the Bluetooth pairing process. Although much more secure in recent years, it's still vulnerable. Here's the pairing process of Bluetooth. When Bluetooth was first announced, it had little or no security built into it. It's still, people, because there's not that much attention to Bluetooth, security is still pretty lax in Bluetooth world. Bluetooth devices create what is called a piconet, or a very small net. In a piconet, there's one master and up to 7 active slaves. Okay, because Bluetooth uses frequency hopping. Okay, these devices' communication don't interfere with each other, as the chances of two devices using the same frequency is very small. All right, so Bluetooth recon. We're going to do that. Let's go ahead and take our 15-minute break. We're going to come back and do some Bluetooth recon. We're going to use some tools that are not built into Kali, but they are built. They are in the Kali repository, and it's called BlueEZ, and it'll allow us, okay, if the hacking gods are friendly, continue to be friendly to us, to be able to find all the Bluetooth devices within in our area and find some basic information about them. And that's the key. That's the first step in hacking anything, is to know who's out there, right? And what their MAC address is, who manufactures them, what their firmware is. That's the kind of information we need before we can hack anything. All right. So let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. Let's come back at 27 minutes after the hour, and we'll look at some Bluetooth reconnaissance. See you then. Okay, we're back, and we're looking at Bluetooth, and we're going to try doing some Bluetooth recon. Let's go to our Kali system. All right, and here we go. Let's go ahead and open up a terminal. And the first thing we have to do is, once again, I'm using a virtual machine. So if you're not using a virtual machine, this becomes not irrelevant, but less important. You have to have a Bluetooth adapter that will work in Linux. Not all Bluetooth adapters will work in Linux, okay? So I've tested a few out, and I have one here that works pretty good. I got a couple, 2 or 3 of them here. And if this one doesn't work, we'll try another one. But I think basically all I did was go on Amazon and search for Linux Bluetooth adapter. They're pretty inexpensive. I ended up buying 1, 2, 3 of them, tried them out to see which ones would work best. So first thing we got to do is we got to go ahead and connect it. Okay, and you can see there's my HackRF1. Okay, here's a couple of Wi-Fi adapters, but here's my Bluetooth dongle right here. We have to connect it first. That's the first step. And let's see if we've got it connected. Looks like it's connected. Okay. Then the next step is to go and get the software, sudo apt, okay, install BlueEZ. And it comes back and says 1 upgrade, 0 remove, not upgrade, needs after this operation. Looks like it's failing here. Unable to fetch some archives, maybe run the apt-get update or try with fixing. Let me see, I think I have it on this system already, but let's make sure. If not, I have it on another one. Okay, command not found. Okay, I think I've got it on my other one. Let's go open up a, but this is how you would get it. And rather than mess with it, I'm gonna go and open up another Kali. Yeah, I've got one here. This is the one I shut down earlier. By the way, Carlos, I liked your joke. It was fun. Okay, I got a little chuckle out of it. Carlos writes, "Hey guys, how did the hackers escape? They all ran somewhere. Ha ha ha." I've never heard that one, Carlos. That's good. All right, booting up another Kali. And I believe I have BlueEZ on there. For some reason, that one wasn't connecting to the Kali repository, and rather than mess with it, we'll just change systems. It also means I now have 5 operating systems running. Even my 32 gigs of RAM are being stretched at 5 operating systems. All right, let me just check to see if it's here. BlueEZ. Command not found. Oh, I'm sorry. Sudo, okay, HCI config. BlueEZ is the package, but HCI config. All right. Looks like it's probably there. Looks like it is. It didn't give us any error message. So for you, you want to go ahead sudo, okay, apt install BlueEZ. And BlueEZ is a package with a bunch of tools in it. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, I don't have it on the system. It's going ahead and installing it. Okay, give it a minute to do its work. Takes a moment, and it's all done. All right. And so BlueEZ has a bunch of tools for doing Bluetooth work, okay, reconnaissance, what have you. And that's what we're going to be doing now, and see if we can't locate and get key information about the Bluetooth devices in my area, my immediate area here, or maybe even farther than my immediate area. Okay, so first step is go sudo. Okay, well, first of all, I got to connect the Bluetooth adapter. Let's do that. I had it connected to the other system, so here it is here. Okay, it says failed to attach. That's not good. All right, so I can't do anything until I get it to attach. Let's try again. Failed to attach. In that case, probably the best thing to do is to go and detach it from the other system. Okay, let's go over here and disconnect it. All right, and then go back over here and attach it. Looks like it worked this time. Let's go and check. Yep, there it is. Okay, now we got it attached. All right. So we've got our BlueEZ installed, and then we can go HCI config. Okay. HCI config is very similar to our IF config, except it's for Bluetooth. Right. So rather than pulling up the TCP/IP adapters, okay, the Ethernet adapters, WLAN, what have you, it's going to tell us if we have any Bluetooth adapters and give us key information about it. And there it is. All right. Now you can see some. Here's the essentially the address. Okay, it's very similar to a MAC address. Okay, it gives us some basic information about it. But you can also see that it's down, okay? So it's not running. So the first step we have to do is we have to basically bring it up. Sometimes if you've ever done this in Linux, when you have an adapter down, you can just say, ipconfig and then the name of the adapter up. And you can do down as well. But here we want to take this one up to make it active, all right? So we do that by going HCI, and we know that it's HCI 0, right? And then up. Okay. Now, when we go run HCI config, you can see it's up and running. That's what we want. All right. Within the suite of tools, the BlueEZ suite, there's a tool called HCI tool. Okay. And this tool will allow us to scan and see if there's any Bluetooth devices in the area. So let's go sudo HCI tool scan. And it's scanning. Give it a moment. It found just one device, and that's a speaker system, a Bluetooth speaker system in the next office. And there's another speaker system in my office. So that speaker system is, I don't know, more than 10 meters away. Okay, give you some idea. And it picked that up. Let's try again and see if we can pick up some other devices. Sometimes you got to run it a few times to pick up all the devices within in the area. Let's see if we can try it again. We're finding more now. Okay, see? So now we found a couple. We found another speaker system here and a phone here. 2 speaker systems and a phone. All right. We can also use another tool, okay, called HCI tool, and then use the inquiry. All right. It gives us a little more information about these devices. It only picked up 2 of them this time. All right, so here's picks up the speaker system here, and this speaker system didn't pick up the phone this time. All right, and it tells us the class. So this is basically the type of device. So we can go to the special interest group of Bluetooth and look up that class to find out what type of device it actually is. We could also use another tool in this suite, okay, called, this one's called SDP tool, all right, and we can browse, all right. Let's use one of the devices. We have one right here. Let's just copy and paste the address and put it in here. And it'll go and gives us a lot of information about it. All right. So what it does is it goes inside that one device and it pulls out a bunch of information about that particular device. Okay. It tells us it's a service class ID. It's an audio sync. Okay. Um, language based profile descriptor. It's an advanced audio. Okay. This is a speaker system. It's about 10 meters away. And other key information is AV remote control. Actually, this looks like not the speaker system, but the remote control for the speaker system. And let's try it with the other device as well. Let's use the same. And let's go, we use that 08. Let's try this one here. And we'll go sudo, that's just up arrow. And just put in the other device's address. Oops. Paste selection, not copy. All right. And it wasn't able to pull any information out of that one, unfortunately. We have another address for the phone. Let's take a look at that. Here's this phone right here. Let's see what we can find about this phone. There we go. Okay, we got quite a bit of information about this phone. It tells us it's an Android. Okay, let's go up a little higher. It has a service called Android Network Access Point. It has Android audio service. It has an AV remote control target. So you get the idea that we can probe inside of any of these devices to get key information that we can then use to hack these systems. All right. And one of the things that you can do in Bluetooth is that you can actually change this information within the device so that you could, for instance, fool somebody into believing that this is, say, a Bluetooth speaker when it's actually a Bluetooth keyboard, all right? Or vice versa, all right? And that's one of the things that you'll see. There's a tutorial on Hackers Arise using a tool called it's called a multi-blue, but basically it has firmware that makes it appear to be an innocuous Bluetooth device, but it actually then is a Bluetooth keyboard, and you can then control somebody else's phone if you can get them, fool them, social engineer them to connect to it. Okay. All right, so there's some basics on Bluetooth. There's a number of tools that are out there available for hacking Bluetooth. Bluetooth is not that difficult to hack, and it's getting more and more secure, but it's still not that secure. Moving on, let's go on and talk a little bit, okay, about our next radio technology, and that's going to be 802.11 or Wi-Fi. Okay, Wi-Fi is sometimes referred to as wireless local area network or WLAN, which basically sums up what this technology is all about. In technical terms, Wi-Fi or wireless network is known as IEEE 802.11 technologies. Without getting into too much detail, IEEE 802.11 is a set of standards created and maintained by the IEEE that are used to implement WLAN communication in select frequency bands. One of the first things when you get into Wi-Fi hacking is you need to know some basic terminology. All right, so let's talk about some of the basic terminology, which most people who just use Wi-Fi aren't familiar with. Right? So most people are familiar with the terminology of AP. Okay, AP is just the access point. Okay, sometimes it's referred to as WAP, the wireless access point. PSK is what most people would call the password. Okay, pre-shared key. SSID is the name of the access point. Okay, ESSID, the same as the SSID, that can be used as multiple APs. So, for instance, if I have a large institution and I have APs spread throughout the institution, this would be the extended service set identifier that are all going to be the same. Okay, so if I go from office to office to office, I can use this extended service set identifier. BSSID, from a hacker's perspective, is the key. That is basically the MAC address of the AP, right? The BSSID. So even if the AP is not broadcasting, or is not broadcasting its SSID, you can still pick up key information about it by simply sniffing the air, which we'll do next. Okay. Channels. Okay. And Wi-Fi operates from channels 1 through 14, but in the US, it's limited to 1 through 11. Power, the closer you are to the AP, the stronger the signal. The signal in the United States is limited to a half a watt. Okay, but legally it's limited to a half a watt. If you're a hacker, you're not limited by that amount, right? So you can get these APs that will put out 10 times that amount. And why would you want that? Well, you'd want that, for instance, in, say, an evil twin attack, okay, or where you want to be able to be the strongest signal in the area. So your machine will connect to the strongest signal in the area as long as it's already had the you've already connected to it before. So if it already has the credentials, and it'll connect to the strongest signal. Security, this is a security protocol to authenticate and encrypt the Wi-Fi traffic. The most popular at this time is WPA2 PSK. Okay, we do have WPA3 PSK out now, but it's still not widely popular. Modes, Wi-Fi can operate in 3 modes: master, managed, and monitor. Okay, the APs operate in master mode. Okay, wireless network interfaces operate in monitor mode by default, and hackers usually operate. Actually, this is actually it should be in. Okay, the APs operate in master mode. Wireless network interfaces operate in managed mode, and hackers usually operate in monitor mode. That's a typo right there. Okay, so the APs in master, the wireless device, your network interface card is in managed, but you can change it into monitor mode. Okay, monitor mode is the same as promiscuous mode in a wired connection. So that means that you can see all of the traffic passing through the air around you. And that's what you want to do as an attacker. And it's pretty simple to do, but you can then see everything that's moving around you. Um, and then once you see everything around you, then you can take an attack strategy. The range is at the legal limit of half a watt. Most Wi-Fi APs are accessible up to 300 feet, 100 meters, but with high gain antennas can be accessible up to 20 miles. Frequency, Wi-Fi is designed to operate at 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Most modern systems now use both. Okay, so the very, very early systems operated at 5 gigahertz, and then the problem with 5 gigahertz is that it doesn't penetrate walls well. The lower frequency penetrates walls better. Okay, so initially they went to 5 gigahertz, then they went down to 2.4 gigahertz, stayed there for a while, and then what they've done now is they've bonded 2.4 and 5 gigahertz together. The advantage of 5 gigahertz is it can carry more data. Okay, but it cannot get through walls as well. So if you use both of them, you get the advantages of both. That's what most of our systems now use. So here's our protocols, multiple protocols. So here's the very first 802.11a. It's 5 gigahertz. Okay, the channel width is 20 megahertz. Doesn't use MIMO. That's the bonding. Okay, between the two. Maximum data rate was set at 54. That's pretty good, but this was not released. This was the original developed. The first release was 802.11b. Okay, because in the testing lab they realized this just wasn't going to be practical, so they changed it and went to B and brought it down to 2.4 gigahertz, and they lost about 80% of the speed by doing that, but it could go through walls. If you're just using 5 gigahertz, you're going to have a hard time getting past any walls or any other obstructions. And then you can see some of the others. And now most of our systems are using some form of MIMO to get better speeds, getting both the penetration and speed by using both of them. The security protocols. In Wi-Fi, the initial security protocol to secure 802.11 was named WEP, or Wired Equivalent Privacy. By 2001, hackers discovered that through statistical techniques, they could crack the user's passwords in minutes due to improperly implemented RC4 encryption. Okay, there's not a problem with RC4. RC4 is secure, but it was improperly implemented, and therefore you could crack it in like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, the IEEE had to quickly find a replacement for all the Wi-Fi APs out there that were left without security. Few of these access points are still in use today. You can still find them, but there's very few. Most of them have been replaced. Okay, but if you find one, it's very simple to crack. WPA. In 2003, IEEE created a short-term fix they called Wi-Fi Protected Access, or WPA. The key part of this new security protocol is that it does not require replacing the existing hardware. So they realized they had sold all these Wi-Fi access points and they were all insecure. But they also recognized, okay, that they couldn't recall them all and ask people to bring them in and replace them. So what they did is they put a firmware upgrade on it. Okay, so you could just download the firmware upgrade, and it made it slightly more secure. Okay. WPA also relied upon RC4 encryption algorithm, but added some additional features, making the PSK, the pre-shared key, more difficult and time-consuming to crack, but not impossible. Okay. WPA2, okay, this is WPA2 802.11i standard, was finalized in June 2004, so it's been around for 18 years. WPA2 uses the counter mode with cipher block chaining message authentication protocol, more commonly known as CCMP. This new protocol was based upon advanced encryption system standard. You are familiar with that. That's the most secure encryption. It's a standard set by the NIST, and it's implemented into WPA2 for authentication and encryption. CCMP was more processor intensive, so most APs had to be replaced. So you couldn't implement this in the old APs. You had to buy a new AP with a more powerful processor. Here's a little bit on Wi-Fi frames. On Hackers Arise, I have a breakdown of all of the frames. Okay, that frames are similar to what we think of as packets in TCP/IP, but essentially a frame encloses the packet in the Wi-Fi protocol. You see, these are all the different frames, types of frames. Over here, I've got for you the Wi-Fi, the Wireshark display filter. Okay, so you can find these various frame types in the traffic. Notice that I just backed up a little bit. Okay, and here's how you can find those frames in Wireshark. So we can go look at the IEEE 802. If you look for Wi-Fi, you're not going to find it. Right? It's listed as IEEE 802.11. Okay, wireless LAN, and you can find all the packet types, frame types, and their features there. As far as WPA2 hacking, okay, AirCrack NG is a tool of choice. It's built into your Kali. Also, Wi-Fi, BetterCap, and there's several others that are out there as well. These tools primarily automate the use of AirCrack NG. So AirCrack NG has been around for 20 years, right? And so these other tools, these newer tools, basically put a GUI on top of AirCrack, make it a little easier to automate the process. Um, and so with that, let's go ahead, and I've put together a little video, okay, on Wi-Fi hacking. Give me a second to get it up, and I'll walk you through it. Okay. Also, those of you who are subscribers, you can get the Wi-Fi hacking tutorials. There's 3 days of Wi-Fi hacking in there using multiple tools. So when you go ahead and you put a Wi-Fi adapter on your Kali system, you can see we saw this the other day, right? Here's our WLAN 0, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just start this video, and we can watch it together, and I'll give you the commentary as we go through. Can you can you hear that my voice on this video? Carlos says, "Is that in Dropbox?" Yes, it is in Dropbox. It was part of the last. What happened is that it's the running Wi-Fi hacking through VMware's, through Oracle's VirtualBox is difficult. Okay, and it's quirky. So what I did last time I ran this class is I basically created a separate video on a machine that was using um, VMware's uh, workstation. It works a lot better through VMware's workstation. So this is just this is part of the last Network Basics class. You can get a more complete understanding using the Wi-Fi hacking class. But I don't know. Can you hear the sound? Uh, so here's me walking this through here, and I'm trying to get the wireless adapter to be able to be seen by the virtual machine. So we're working through sudo ifconfig. I'll just give you the running commentary. Okay, this time, we've got it there. So we've got it connected to the virtual machine. Yeah, I turned off the sound. I'm the voice here. Okay, so I turned off. I've muted the sound so there's not two of us talking, and I'm just going to give you the commentary as I'm walking through this. Okay, but you can hear me, right? You can't hear the video, but you can hear me. Yeah. All right. So I'll just tell you what's going on here. So first step, of course, is to make sure that your virtual machine can see the wireless adapter. That's what that is right there. Okay, WLAN 0. And rather than my mess around with VirtualBox, I'm just using this previous video from the previous class. And actually, I did this after class and added it to the class because it's really kind of squirrely to be able to use Oracle's VirtualBox VMware, it works pretty darn good, all right, but not so much in VirtualBox. You can see there's many tools there. All right, here's AirCrack right here. This is the primary. This is the best tool for cracking Wi-Fi. But you see there's Fern, there's Kismet. Kismet's not a cracking tool. Um, Wi-Fi works pretty good. There's a number of others. If you watch the wireless hacking tutorials, you'll see I use 3 or 4 different tools there. All right, and there I am making sure that it's connected. Okay. You can see I have multiple Wi-Fi adapters there, and the one I'm using is the Raylink. Usually in VirtualBox or VMware, it doesn't give you the name of the manufacturer. It gives you the name of the chipset, okay? It gives you the name of the chipset. So it won't actually display the name. And this is actually, all of these are alpha. They're different versions of the alpha adapter, okay? And so it's telling me what chipset is on those. And the one that I'm using is actually an older version, but speed is not that important to Wi-Fi hacking, right? Speed's really not that important. So as long as you can connect to the AP, that's all you need. You don't need speed. You don't need the latest and greatest. If you can find an old alpha really cheap, on eBay or something, then great. If you the new ones, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Law at Carlos, Carlos's joke. Okay. And here what I'm showing you is a command called iwconfig. Okay. And iwconfig in Linux will show you just the wireless adapters. Okay. So it shows you all the adapters and only the ones that have wireless. Okay. In this case, WLAN 0, it'll give you basic information. So if that's all you're interested in is wireless, iwconfig does the job. I think I put iwconfig in my Linux Basics for Hackers course in the wireless section there. The wireless section in Linux Basics for Hackers is pretty good. Gives you a good understanding of how wireless works. Gives you a good understanding of how to go about doing reconnaissance in wireless. But it doesn't really go into the hacking because the book was designed to familiarize you with Linux for hacking, not necessarily doing the hacking. I have a big section in getting started becoming a master hacker on using multiple tools for hacking and hacking with AirCrack, we use PMKID, Wi-Fi, a number of different tools to hack. Here what I'm doing is I'm using IWList, okay? And IWList will go ahead and look for all the Wi-Fi APs in the area. Here it came back with no scan results. That's not good. We'll try it again. Yeah, it's showing that it's connected. It doesn't, IWList doesn't always work. Let's try it again here. Nope, still not coming up with anything. I think at this point so here what we're doing is we're using the first step in hacking Wi-Fi is to put your interface into monitor mode. And you do that by using airmon-ng. Start, and then the wireless device's name. And you see there, all right. So I went ahead And now by putting it in monitor mode, now I have it essentially in promiscuous mode. Promiscuous mode means that it can see all the traffic, not just my traffic. It can see all the traffic coming and going to all the APs in the area. When you put it in a promiscuous mode, it changes the name. Right here, you can see it. It changes the name of the wireless device. So we have to note that, okay? From now on, that wireless device is no longer named WLAN 0. It's named WLAN 0 MON. And we have to use that new name from here on out. I'm showing you here that it indicates that the Raylink is the chipset, okay, and that is the version of the chipset. This is an older version of the Alpha. It works great, okay. I have newer versions too. It works just as well as the old one. Works just as well as the new ones. So like I said, if you can pick up an old one used, you can probably pick them up for less than $10. The new ones cost $30, $40, $50, something like that. And actually, I think that this one, I use this one because it's actually more reliable. This older one is than the newer ones. At least in Linux, it works. It's more reliable. So now that we have it in monitor mode, okay, the next step, okay, is to go ahead and look at all the traffic that's in the area. And that's what I'm doing here. AeroDump NG, okay. AeroDump NG allows you to see all the traffic in the area. Notice that I'm putting in WLAN 0 MON, okay. That's the new name for the interface. If I use WLAN 0, it'll tell me cannot find that interface. I have to use the new name. And then if it's successful, it should then be able to show you all of the traffic that's in the area, show you all of the APs and all of the clients as well. So you should see all the information that you need to be able to hack the system. What I didn't do here is I didn't put in sudo, so I put in sudo and now, okay? And you can see, so far it hasn't pulled up any information. I'm gonna have to, in this video, I had to go through and try it a few times before it worked. Once again, it's a virtual machine anomaly, okay? But you can see it's going through all the channels right there, okay? And when it works, it shows me all of the BSSID, which is the MAC address of the AP. Down here, it'll show me the MAC addresses of the clients that are connected to it. So I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for it to collect any data. It's not being successful. We're going to run it again. And you can see this was just on, what is about a year ago. Okay, we're going to try it again. See the wired connection. It's kind of spinning up here. So it really, the connection isn't there yet. This is one of those virtual machine issues. Going to try it again. Eventually it works, so be patient, okay? Okay, you can see I've gone ahead and done IWconfig, and you can see there's the new name of the wireless adapter. It also shows me right here that it's in monitor mode, okay? Monitor mode is what we need. We can't really do any kind of hacking in any other mode other than monitor. And that's what AirMonNG does for us. It puts the device into monitor mode, similar to promiscuous mode in a wired connection. Okay. We're going to try running AirDump again. It's going through all the channels, looking, pick up information. and still not getting anything. Probably because it's not properly connected. Eventually, once again, it's one of those issues of a virtual machine. We'll go ahead and let me just fast forward through and we can get to where it actually worked rather than watching these attempts. Sometimes watching the attempts is important so you get some idea of how to resolve these issues because you're probably going to run into the same problems at time. And so that's why I leave them in the video so you get to see how to fix these problems when you run into them. I think what I've done here is I've gone ahead and rebooted it and reattached the Wi-Fi adapter. And now we're going to go and once again having some. Let's see if we can find the section where it actually does work. And also by leaving this stuff in the video, although it may not be real interesting, you can kind of relate to the problems that you might have in doing the same thing. When you run into these problems, most people, when you watch their videos, everything works perfectly, right? And you're like, why doesn't it work like that for me? Well, the truth is, it doesn't always work, okay? Part of what we do as cybersecurity hackers is we solve problems, okay? We figure out what's wrong. And here's an example of where we're trying to figure out. This is really, once again, it's a virtual machine anomaly that have really having difficulty getting that wireless adapter to connect. Oh, I think right now I'm switching over to VMware Workstation. And now I'm in VMware Workstation. Let's see if we can get it to connect this time. I may have to go to another video to show you. This one is you can see it's still spinning there, having problems with the connection. Let's go and let's see what else. I have the another one that I can show you. Let's go ahead and close that. And let's go over to, some of you have probably seen the Wi-Fi hacking. Let's go ahead and pull that one up and show it to you. And let's see. What I want you to see is how we can All right. That's- All right. Here's let's see what we can find the key parts here. Ah, here we go. Okay. This is the key part right here. Here um, I'm using AirCrack. All right. You can see here, it's very similar to what we saw before. We put it in monitor mode right here. AirMon start WLAN. It changes the name to WLAN 0 Mon. Okay. And then we'll see when we go into air dump. I'll see if I can fast forward a little bit through here. We get to the key parts. All right. There's our WLAN 0 Mon. Trying the air dump NG. And there we go. This is what happens. Okay. So once you get your interface into monitor mode, okay, that what happens is it then goes through each one of the channels, all right, and picks up. You see, these are all of the MAC addresses of all of the APs in the area. It shows us their power, their beacons, how much data, how many packets per second, what channel they're operating on. Notice that they're all moving, they're all on channels 1 through 11, nothing beyond 11, because the US has to be 1 through 11. It tells us what kind of encryption. We have one here that's on WPA, another one here is WEP, all right? The type of cipher, the ESSID, all right? Down here, okay, is that we have the BSSID and the station. So this is the clients. These are the clients down here. These are the people who are connected to the station, right? And similar information down below here. Right? So let's keep on moving forward here. This is once we have it in monitor mode, we can see all the information we need to hack. Emily says, can I possibly get this video sent via email? It's too big to send via email. Okay. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Can the rest of you hear me? Yeah, okay. For some reason Emily's in Europe, and she's losing a connection there. But these are too big to send via email. I mean, each one of these is about, a third of a gig each video, and no email service is going to let you send it through. Let's go forward here a little bit. Here I'm using the IW list. Okay. Let's see if we can get IW list. IW list will list all of the APs in the area with key information about them. But of course, Emily, you can get it through, you can get it through Dropbox. Okay. Here I am going and checking all of the processes that are running on that system. And then going back to IWI ifconfig, make sure that we go back to airmon ng. put it back into monitor mode. Oh, we're stopping it here. I'm going to stop the AirMon and then try to restart it again. All right, so we've putting it back. We've taken it out of monitor mode. Okay. Yeah, all of the videos, by the way, they're all available on Dropbox. Okay. So if you're a member pro, you can get any course. While you're a member pro, you can get any of the courses from Dropbox, the videos. Those of you who are subscribers, you can get all of the courses via Dropbox. So we're still here, kind of struggling with the connection issues. This is all connection with still using VirtualBox here. These are typical VirtualBox issues. VMware works a lot better. But the key part that I wanted you to see is this part right here. Okay, that's the part where we've got all the information, okay, about all of the APs and the clients by using. Let me get to it again here in the video, wherever that's at. Right here. This is the part I wanted you to see. So once you, 2 steps, that's all you got to do, is put your Wi-Fi adapter into monitor mode. Then use air dump, okay? And air dump then pulls up all the key information that you need, even if they've turned off the beacon. So most cybersecurity people are taught that you turn off the beacon on the AP and nobody can see it. Well, that's not true, okay? I can still see it, even if it's turned off, okay? Because these frames, as they're coming out, include information about the AP. So turning off the beacon will only keep out the good guys. The bad guys are going to still be able to find all the information they need. And basically, all you need to crack these, okay, is the BSSID, okay, what channel it's on, and then maybe the client that's connected to it, okay, and that's all available here. Now, cracking the password, the PSK, of modern systems is basically a brute force attack. Okay, so what you do is that you need to go ahead and grab the the password when you're in monitor mode like this here. If somebody connects, okay, it'll come up with a little signal right here telling you that we've got the hash of that client. So every time somebody connects to the AP, they have to send the hash of the password. And then air dump here can pick it up and grab it for you. And then it becomes a brute force password cracking process. This is all of the Wi-Fi process, okay? The next process is all password cracking, okay? And one of the things that you need to have in the process of cracking the password is that every modern Wi-Fi AP uses the name of the AP as a salt. All right. So you need to have both the hash and then the name of the AP. Now, why do they use the salt? Because they use the salt to make it more difficult to crack the password. So if they didn't use a salt, then you could use something called a rainbow tables, where you have the hash of every possible word, all right, and then just match the hashes up. But by using the salt, salt combines the name of the SSID with the password and then hashes it. All right, makes it a little more difficult, but not impossible. You can still crack it. All right, it's time consuming. Generally, you want to use a fast password cracker, something like, say, Hashcat. And there's a number of other good tools that are out. I have the PMKID attack, which works pretty good. If you want to automate the process, I'm going to show you here. There's a simple, quick and easy tool, okay, called Wi-Fi that works really well. See if I got Wi-Fi installed. I think it's installed by default in wireless attacks. Yeah, here it is here. And just go. This is a real simple and easy use tool called Wi-Fi. It'll automatically put your adapter. It's basically using AirCrack. It's automating the process of using AirCrack to crack it, and it does the cracking process as well for you. So it really makes things much more simple. You can see there's different types of encryption. Okay, it looks at WEP, WPA, WPS, and this is probably among the easiest to work tools. It also does the PMKID attack. So to simplify, the hacking, this is really an excellent tool for automating the process of cracking. But basically, they're all using the AirCrack, and they're automating the process. These guys who built Wi-Fi did a good job. You don't have to know a whole lot to be able to actually use Wi-Fi to get it to work. All right. You probably want to go ahead and download uh, the PMKID. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So sudo Wi-Fi. So when you go ahead and start Wi-Fi, okay, it says, all right, here's a wireless auditor, blah, blah, blah. It tells you that you probably should install Pirate, HCX dump tool, HCP cap tool. These are the tools that are used for doing the PMKID attack. It also tells you that it went ahead, here's your adapter, WLAN 0. It put it into monitor mode automatically for you, right? And then calls it WLAN mon, just like we did manually, okay? And then it says scanning, found 0 targets, 0 clients, okay? That's because I don't have a Wi-Fi adapter connected to it, but let's go and do a Control C and see what it does. Get some idea of how simple this tool is. All right, so once again, it's an issue with I'll go ahead and see if I can't connect. You can see it right there. It shows it connected. There's the Ray link right there. Let's go and do sudo ifconfig, and there it is. Okay, but once again, you have the virtual machines sometimes have difficulty passing information through the virtual machine to the USB adapter, no matter what the USB adapter happens to be, including even some thumb drives. Sometimes they have difficulty passing information. And if you're doing, for instance, software defined radio and using your USB, it's really troublesome. I have not been able to get most of the software defined radio transmitters to transmit through into a virtual machine. I have to use a physical machine to do it. Okay. So that's one of the drawbacks of working with a virtual machine. Let's try Wi-Fi one last time. And you see it found 0 targets and 0 clients. It's already, but it really is a slick tool that does a lot of the work for you. No targets found. You may wait longer, or you may have issues with your Wi-Fi card. And that's it right there. Is the Wi-Fi card isn't talking to the virtual machine. And it actually shows it's connected, but it's just not passing data between them efficiently. Okay, any questions, folks? If they're not, that's it for Network Basics for Hackers. look for my book coming out soon. We're expecting to have it completed by June. There'll be a lot more detail on these protocols in the book. Also, look for next month. We're going to have staying anonymous on the internet. Okay. Sartorius says, have you used the Hack5 Pineapple? Yeah, the Hack5 Pineapple is a great tool. All right. And so it's something that if you have the resources, you want to go ahead and put it out there. It can be, you can get people to connect to it and get and hack them that way. Okay. Carlos asks, will the recording of this class be posted? Yes. Everything will be everybody who's here. Okay. Yamal says he owns 2 pineapples and already has rubber ducky. Okay. And those are all from Hack5. They're excellent tools. Um, but yeah, the videos will be available probably tomorrow. So when I'm recording this class, it's basically raw data going into a file. They have to be then converted into MP4s. So that takes about 24 hours or so to convert them all into MP4s. I will put them, then I'll upload them to Dropbox. Okay. And um, and then once they're uploaded to Dropbox, I will then give you all access. Yamal says, when will the new book ship out? It's expected June. Okay, so hopefully we'll have it all shipping in June, and there'll be more detail about all of the network basics and the protocols there. All right, thank you all for coming, and have a good weekend. I will look for my next interview coming up from David Bombal, probably Sunday, and I'll send out links on Twitter to it. So, and I'll see you all again in class soon. Bye. Mahalo. Hack the world. See y'all. Thanks for coming.